morning. This morning we are very, very thankful and happy and grateful to have Bea on board with us, which is going to tell us a little bit more of a very important role of her being the guardian of Rory from Bale's Buddy, who is this wonderful Portuguese water dog that is actually a therapy dog. We're going to find out more what exactly that means. And Bea herself, she works for Waves, which is also helping out in sort of a different school programs, and she's a lead in there, helping new school developments projects to continue from there. So Bea, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Lennon. Hello.
Hello. Let's just start off very simply. Just tell me a little bit more about what do you do,
I
please.
work for a multi-academy trust that has academies across the southwest, largely in Cornwall and Devon. And our academies or schools are for children who have special educational needs. So we have special schools, and we also have alternative provision for children who are at risk of exclusion from school or have been excluded. And we run hospital education, so for children who are unable to access mainstream school for medical reasons.
Sounds like you've got your hands full, and certainly it takes a lot of dedication to do that. And also, we have seen you on another capacity because you have got Rory, the Portuguese water dog, who is actually a therapy dog. Could you tell us a bit more about Rory's role? Let's start with why. How do you hear about Rory, and why have you chosen to be the guardian of Rory?
So in my role as New Schools Development Lead for Wave, I was involved in project managing the opening of Glendinning Academy, which is a new school opened this September, despite the pandemic, which is an achievement in itself. And that school is for children with social communication and interaction needs, including autism. And there is a lot of research available that looks at how mammals, small, medium-sized mammals, are really beneficial in a therapeutic capacity for humans, but specifically children on the autism spectrum who struggle with communication. It provides lots of opportunities for children to communicate with something that doesn't necessarily judge them or have any expectations from them. So it promotes lots of skill development for children who perhaps have anxiety around social interaction. And Rory is a trainee therapy dog currently. So he is now 13 months. I've had him since he was a puppy. So I've had him now for a year. He joined us just at lockdown, which was unfortunate in terms of a global pandemic and having a puppy and all the socialization that's entailed. But Rory, over the next kind of 12 months or so, will be trained by Bale's Buddies and will have an accreditation that makes him an assistance dog, and he will work in the school as the school's therapy dog, so providing those social interaction opportunities and lots of different ways of playing and being with a dog, and it's just really beneficial in a therapeutic sense for those kids. Because he's in his training stage, he's dropped off and he's looked after by a lovely lady called Michelle, who's his in-school guardian. She provides him with a safe space and an opportunity, obviously, for when Rory needs to relax and be away from the kind of busy environment. He is only 13 months old, so he is a puppy. And Rory then, with Michelle, will walk around school, and currently he's undergoing his kind of exposure training. So he's in school to learn more about what it smells like, what it sounds like. He's getting used to the building, as is everybody, because the building is brand new and the school's brand new. So he's going through all that kind of sensory kind of understanding of the space in a very similar way to the children and the staff have had to do. And we're making sure that that's supported very carefully so that he has positive experiences in this environment. And during his day, he'll walk around the school and meet children in a very informal way currently. And today, actually, Bale's Buddies are collecting him at 1 o'clock, and they're going to take him in to school for a specific training session, which will be 2 hours. So each week, Bale's Buddies take Rory to school, and they spend time with him doing things like deep pressure therapy, for example, which is something which provides children, some children, not everybody, this is very much an individual thing that different children would find beneficial, but it's almost like a weighted blanket, but it's a dog. So you can have a child who's sitting on the floor, maybe reading, and a comforting sensation would be a dog sitting on their legs or on their lap, because Rory's fairly heavy. So you've got a weight on you that is a comforting sensation, and that's carried out. Rory's been trained on a command to just kind of lie across your legs.
Wow.
And he's trained on command to get up again. And that's one of the kind of therapeutic things that he does. He'll also go and play a game. So they might have some agility set up where children are trying to train Rory to jump over things or run through a tunnel, and all of those kind of interactions with the dog and with their classmates are opportunities to practice kind of, you know, how do I initiate a conversation? How do I give instructions? How do I develop that confidence? How can I overcome my anxiety? So yeah, Rory then has time with his trainers. He has time going through exposure training with mum at school, which is Michelle. And gradually by September, he should be able to be working with the staff and the children in a more formal way when he's fully settled in that environment.
It sounds very, very interesting, because we know that many people, they get pets and get dogs because they enjoy the comfort, they enjoy watching telly, and the dog or cat sitting on the lap. Is that sort of sensation that cannot be replicated having a heavy blanket or something like that? So it sounds as though you're almost converting Rory to a certain extent of that is part of their job, to provide comfort in that sense, how pet guardians get comfort in the first place, but just making it accessible to children and actually helping their mental well-being. Does it sound about right?
Yeah, definitely. Wave, as a multi-academy trust, has dogs in all of our settings, and the dogs provide a great deal of comfort to children. If children are dysregulated and the dog walks around with a member of staff and a child may be feeling dysregulated, it's a really great distraction, for example, from those big emotions that a child might be feeling, and that child's unable to discharge those emotions in a kind of safe way, or, you know, even a way that, you know, society deems appropriate. The dog comes along and provides that child a great deal of comfort, and the child is able to kind of focus on the dog. Often the child understands more about the thought of the other animal in the, you know, oh dear, well the dog will be scared if I do this. And so there's a great deal of empathy being learnt there around how am I you know, that it gives them an opportunity to reflect on how they're behaving right now, see that the dog is there, and kind of have that kind of contact and communication with that dog on a level that doesn't involve speech. You don't need to think too much. You know, the brain, when it's in that kind of fight, flight, freeze response, when a child might be dysregulated, there's, you know, thinking time is not something you can really have, but just seeing that dog and wanting to just kind of go and cuddle it, or ruffle up its hair, or just throw a ball really hard and the dog runs after it is a really great kind of discharging way of getting your emotions out. Obviously all our dogs are dogs that are suitable for that environment, and that's why Rory's going through this very rigorous training. Dogs are used fairly widely around in schools, in mainstream schools, all settings now. I think before you had the animal therapeutic approach, you would definitely have kind of physical equipment. So a child might be able to discharge their emotions through kind of climbing up something, or going on a swing, or being taken out for a walk. You know, walking and generally being outside is often a really good way of kind of just changing the scene. Being with a different person is often a really good way. The dogs add that additional support. I think that schools without dogs do well, but that dog is an extra tool, and a really fantastic tool, really. I mean, it seems wrong to regard Rory as a tool, but that is his job. His job is to be there to support the children. So schools would use, you know, teaching assistants would take perhaps a child out for a walk around the field, or you would maybe go and special settings, and some alternative provisions have special rooms that might be a sensory room. So a child might need to go and roll around on like a lovely furry blanket, or you might have some equipment, play equipment, to give proprioceptive feedback, swinging, rocking, all of those kind of things can be used to kind of self-regulate. But the animals just add that extra dimension. And yes, Rory is a valued member of staff, rather than a tool. Tool is a bad word, but he's there as an extra thing there to complement. Not all children like dogs, so Rory isn't the right animal to be in that position. It's all about knowing the kids, knowing, getting those relationships, the staff relationships with the children is crucial. And so when you know the children, and you know which children would really benefit from Rory's input, or perhaps other children that need to go in the soft playroom, or perhaps another child that needs to go and have a walk around, or maybe go in the polytunnel and plant some seeds. So it's very much an individualized response. Largely animals, small mammals, guinea pigs, rabbits, chickens work with largely most young people. Dogs work with a lot. But you do have to be mindful of, people's feelings around dogs.
I can really see how valuable Rory is to certain individuals who like dogs, because the connection to nature is very real and visceral. And having Rory over there as another living being, the energy it provides is quite different as well. No, I can totally see that's amazing.
It's an unusual breed. It's one that I hadn't met before. I'd heard of them, and I'd known somebody who had one, and I knew how clever they are. So they are very, very intelligent. So in terms of training, they pick up things very, very well. Bale's buddies use a variety of different breeds for different scenarios. They have Labradors. I think they have some Spaniels. They have a large amount of Portuguese water dogs. I think generally also they have fur very much like a poodle, because they're a water dog breed. Their fur is non-shedding, supposedly. Rory is shedding now, but he's changing from his puppy coat to his adult coat. So my house is covered in fur, but when his adult coat comes in, they are non-shed, they're waterproof. I don't know how that works, but they are waterproof. So in terms of an environment where you've got potentially children with allergies and things like that, the water dog is really good, compared to perhaps a Labrador, where people could be allergic. I think the intelligence, and they are, from my experience of them, they are absolutely wonderful personality. They love people. They're very loyal. They're not the kind of dog that you would have if you wanted to leave them alone for any period of time. So they really love that human interaction. So they're very well suited to being in a school where they're going to get lots of attention, because they love that. So Rory gets exercise first thing in the morning, because that's what he needs. He lives with two other dogs. He lives with two whippets called Baxter and Stanley, who are his dog brothers. Rory's quite lazy. He's very cuddly, and if we have a lie-in, he is happy to just carry on lying around. Inside the house, Portuguese water dogs are very calm. I think that's another benefit of the breed in a school, is that if you are indoors sitting around watching TV, or I'm doing work, if I'm working from home, they are very happy to just lie around. So at the moment, Rory's asleep in the kitchen. So he has his walk when we've all got up, but we don't have to get up super early, as some dog breeds do demand. He has a really good run around. He loves the woods. He loves jumping in muddy puddles, streams. He hasn't braved the sea yet, but I think that might be his age, because I've seen videos of Portuguese water dogs jumping into very wavy sea in kind of Portugal. So I'm looking forward to that. When I went in the sea last summer, and he wouldn't follow me, but he loves the water. He loves rivers, woods. And then when he comes home, he's settled. He loves his food. We play with him. I've got 2 young children who give him lots of cuddles and play with him a lot. And that's been really good for his exposure to children, in that when schools were shut during lockdown, that's impacted on his ability to get that training in a school setting. But he lives with 2 primary age children, so he has been jumped on and, you know, played with, and he's used to being gentle with kids from the outset. And yeah, so Rory hangs out at home. He's settled in the house. He's got his dog brothers, and he does spend time. He goes and visits a member of the Rotary Club of Newton Abbot. Very generously supported Rory, so they've donated Rory to the school, so they have paid for all of his training, which means that we can have Rory, because it's a really, you know, it's a big financial thing to need to commit to as a resource for a school. So the Newton Abbot Rotary Club have sponsored him, and there are members who often kind of help out and look after Rory, so that he's not just sitting, if he's not at school, he's not just sitting in my house. It's also important during these times where those social interactions for the dog are more difficult to create, to happen. They don't happen, you have to create them. So Rory spends time with somebody once a week generally, in someone else's house, and is taken out for a walk by someone else, so he doesn't get too attached to his family. And yeah, he likes to watch TV in the evenings. He loves his meals, and yeah, very settled indoors. Once he's had his walk, that's important. I think that I took on Rory because I was setting up the school, and this was at a point where we knew we wanted a therapy dog. We knew that was a big part of our ambition. And at that stage, the school is a free school, so it's been set up by funding from the Department for Education. It's centrally funded, and you open your school in September, and that is when all your staff start. So I was project managing the school, and we needed to start the puppy training for the therapy dog. Otherwise, the school would have to wait a considerable amount of time to not have the dog. So the dog, now it's March, and the school opened in September, and the dog is only just, because of the pandemic and various different things, the dog is only just starting to have his proper school training now. But if I hadn't taken on Rory, and in terms of being a guardian, the whole process would have been even slower. I already had 2 dogs, so I know the commitment involved, and I've got 2 whippets who hate being left on their own. So we already have to live our life around 2 dogs that we kind of have to make sure are happy all the time, and so we already make adjustments to our life for our dogs. So it wasn't adding a third. It wasn't too difficult to in a life-changing sense. 3 dogs is a lot. It is, you know, and we often try and get opportunities to walk them separately, so that they get that kind of, Rory gets his proper training around, you know, recall and stuff. Otherwise they hang around as a little gang, which is great to see them, you know, they have a wonderful time. They're great company for each other. So it wasn't a big change for us, and it was an important part of the school development, and I felt really privileged to be able to give him a home. And if he ever needs to go and live with somebody who is in the school every single day, then that is something that us as my family would be heartbroken. But we absolutely understand that Rory is the school's dog, and we must make sure that he is in the best place for the school. So it's absolutely accepted by my children that we are looking after Rory, and we might look after Rory for his lifetime, but Rory needs to be in the right place in order to do his job. Baxter would have preferred to have been an only dog from the outset. He would have preferred to have been an only dog with no children in the family either. He was very spoiled. He was our first dog, and he was a fur baby. And then Stan came along when Baxter was 2, and Baxter really wished he didn't have a younger brother. And Stan loves Baxter and wants to get in Baxter's bed all the time and wants to cuddle Baxter. So Stan's now happy because Rory wants to do that. So Stan and Rory are like little inseparable buddies. and Baxter gets to kind of chill out and watch. He's the older statesman. So yeah, Baxter probably would prefer to just be with me all day long and no one else. And that's not going to happen. He'd also prefer to sleep on a velvet cushion, but that's not going to happen. So I think Baxter's probably would probably say, oh, could he just go to work and not come back? But Stan and Rory are inseparable. They are a great team, and they get up into lots of mischief.
Sometimes you win, you can't win them all.
Bale's buddies have worked really hard to try and make sure that they are able to continue the training. Lockdown 1, it was kind of difficult. I can't quite, I think they worked out some COVID secure measures so that they could continue. But obviously the schools were shut. So Rory, when he was a very young puppy, didn't have that exposure into schools that you would normally do, you would normally plan for. And also we weren't able to meet up, we weren't able to do puppy classes, so we weren't able to introduce him to other dogs. But because Bale's buddies were training him, Bale's buddies were able to take him out with other therapy dogs. And we always walk the dogs in places where there are lots of other dog walkers. So we were making sure that, following restriction guidelines and things like that, Rory was able to meet as many as possible. So out on a walk, we would always kind of, try and get the puppy to meet other dogs safely. And so Rory, the biggest impact has been on his ability to be in school. So lockdown 1, obviously schools were shut. Lockdown 2, there was restrictions around what companies could open. So there was limited amount of training that Bale's buddies could offer due to the restrictions on business. And then lockdown 3, obviously schools were shut again. And there was a period of time between lockdown 2 and lockdown 3 where Rory wasn't allowed in school because of the risk of transmission via Rory's fur. So if a child sneezed or coughed or whatever all over Rory, and then he happily runs off to a different classroom, there was a risk there. Now we've overcome that with different types of spray. There's sprays that you can put on the dog that are safe for the dog, but provide that level of protection that if any, I mean, the risk is low, but in order to mitigate against that risk, anti-bac sprays that are safe for animals are used. So I think just everybody's responded in the best way that we possibly can do, and making sure that everybody is safe. We are not risking anything. We're making sure that the dog is safe, and that the dog gets as much of his training as he can do.
Yeah, no, it sounds as though you guys have done as much support as you can in this very difficult time, really, where there's so many questions, more questions than answers, and you're supposed to navigate through that. So well done to Bill's buddy as well.
Yeah.
I think they've done very, very well.
His lovely furry face and his lovely nature. He's wonderful. His nature is so cuddly and caring, and he absolutely adores all of us, and we adore him. It was wonderful to have him in lockdown 1, where the children had been sent home from school, everything, you weren't really sure what was going to happen, and Rory really provided us as a family with therapy, because it gave us a focus. And I know there's been a lot of people have bought dogs during lockdown. People have recognized the benefit of having animals living with them. It's a massive benefit to your well-being and your mental health. Getting out of the house, we had to anyway because we already had dogs, but getting out of the house, going for a walk in nature, our allotted walk that we were allowed, being in that beautiful weather and having Rory really did mean that we were in a kind of, our mental health was protected by the fact we had this lovely positive life force to look after. And then just that relationship with him, he's wonderful. He's so cuddly.
That is beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
Keeping him safe, because it's like looking after someone else's child. I've got such a weight of responsibility
Mm,
that, you know,
mm,
I look after my dogs, my own dogs, and I keep them
mm,
safe. But this adds another layer, that this dog is, you know, it's not mine. I love him as though he is
mm,
mine. I will look after him for as long as I need to. But the Rotary Club of Newton Abbot have sponsored him. We are fundraising. We need to fundraise in order to make sure that we cover his ongoing costs. So I think that's a weight, that's a responsibility. I need to make sure that how I interacted with him outside of school doesn't there isn't a detriment to his training. So I need to make sure I follow the training commands and treat him, you know, in a way that doesn't spoil him for his actual job. And I think long term, we really need to raise funds to secure Rory's future in terms of making sure that the school can afford him, because animals are a huge financial commitment. We've set up a Friends of Glendinning charity, which will run like a PTA, so very similar to a parent teacher association for the school, but one of our main jobs, our main focus our first job as a charity is to secure a pot of funding that will cover Rory's costs over his lifetime, so that the school do not have to worry about that. So costs involved like a grooming, for example, his veterinary membership, his food, his insurance, and any sort of further veterinary treatments that he will require, toys, bedding, all of those things that come with a dog that are a financial commitment. Friends of Glendinning would like to make sure that we have got a fund raised to make sure that Rory is an absolute benefit to the school and can live comfortably and safely and is well looked after. So the responsibility of having him and making sure he's safe, and then the responsibility of making sure that we have raised those funds to cover him for his working life.
That certainly sounds challenging. Imagine having a dog that you have to take care of, that you are very, very clearly aware that it's actually not yours, but you are just being held, like I said, the guardian, the responsibility. You can view it as a responsibility or even burden of making sure that nothing else happens. And also on top of that, you're talking about how you have to interact with that dog in a certain way, which can be quite counterintuitive for a lot of different people who feels that they should be allowed to do whatever they want with their dog. But certainly for Rory, you know, with the training, you cannot ruin the training, and hence, or rather, you must even try to enhance the training by using the certain commands and timings that you have to go through. That is fairly impressive and challenging, really, on its own.
So Rory probably gets through a 10-kilogram bag of dry food a month, probably just under that. We're really, really lucky. So the work that we have done so far with the Rotary Club and with Friends of Glendinning has secured very generous local companies and businesses. So Rory's food currently is being donated by Newton Abbot Pet Supplies, which is a local pet shop. It's in the town and it's also up at Fermoys. They very generously have donated his dry food, which is wonderful. And so there's the food costs, but at the moment they're being donated. Grooming. So grooming needs to be done every 8 weeks. The Portuguese water dog's fur will just carry on growing. So he needs to be clipped. Some you'll see some dogs, if you look them up on the internet, they have big, lovely, long fur, but the maintenance of that is brushing every single day, which is too much. So grooming every 8 weeks is roughly between £30 and £50 every 2 months. You've got your insurance costs. It's really important to have dogs insured, I believe, because things just happen. Rory ate a tennis ball. Lennon knows very well that
We know.
Rory ate a tennis ball, which caused an obstruction. So we had to have, emergency treatment. And because we have that insurance, it's less of a worry that thousands of pounds need to be used. So Rory's monthly insurance is just under £30 a month at the moment, and that will rise as he gets older. He has other costs involved alongside that insurance. You need to make sure that you've got enough for your excess. So most insurances come with some sort of excess, which is can be £100. You know, it's an expensive side to dogs, but it's crucial. You've got to be able to give them the care they need when they need it. Toys and things like that, he gets through quite a lot of those. And then we want to be able to buy things that Rory can work with the school. So agility kit, balls to play with, balls to throw for the children, puzzles that the children can do. So there's a supply of kit that we would like for Rory to have, that then when Rory goes out with a class, they've got Rory's rucksack full of cool stuff that they can do. So the cost of a dog does fairly quickly mount up, but all of it is vital. There's nothing you can really do out of those costs. Working with Bale's Buddies locally, lots of schools are very interested in the therapy dog. I think schools, one of the kind of barriers is the costs involved. So if we are able to demonstrate a model where we were able to fundraise to cover Rory, and if we can demonstrate that there are businesses who believe that therapy dogs in schools are a fantastic idea and are prepared to sponsor, I would really hope that we could share that model far and wide. As I said, Wave Multi Academy Trust, who Rory works for, in effect, as a staff member, we really believe in the therapeutic benefit of animals and dogs. So we have dogs across our schools, and we would love to see more of that in mainstream. It would really help with engagement of children. So where children are at risk of having to leave the mainstream setting and go to alternative provision or go to a special school, perhaps the interactions with those dogs could really help some children stay within the mainstream setting for longer. So ideally, in 5 years' time, more the benefit of therapy dogs to really fully be acknowledged and understood, and for it to be a wider, more accessible thing for all children.
That sounds like an extremely noble goal that is going to reach out and bring a lot of value to all these children, really. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much, Bea. Is there anything else, any parting words you'd like to give to the audience?
Please do, if you feel you can, donate towards Rory's ongoing care. Keep safe, everybody, and enjoy the company of your animals, because they are wonderful.
That is beautiful, Bea. Thank you very much for your time, and look forward to see you and Rory at the practice again